Hey guys, Mount Vernon Kid here coming to you again. How's everybody doing out there? Welcome back to Characters Why I Like Them Series 2. The weekly vid where I basically tell you about characters from comics, movies, anime, you name it, why I like them. So this time, as you can see, I'm bringing you Marvel's premier Canadian team known as Alpha Flight. Yeah, Alpha Flight. Now, in some people's mind, they don't get much love, but I actually respect Alpha Flight, and I actually have a fond memory of them, even though sometimes they acted like a bunch of jerks in their earlier days. But I'll get into that a little bit. First and foremost, they first appeared in X-Men number 120. That was around like what 1979, I believe. Um, and that's where they first appeared. Now, as I said, Alpha Flight was supposed to be is pretty much the premier Canadian team in Canada, in Marvel Universe's Canada. When you travel to Canada, most of the time you're gonna run into this team. Um, and pretty much the team pretty much came about because of uh, they were like a third tier program of Department H within the Canadian Ministry of Defense. Um, and they went through different terms, like they were called Gamma Flight, Beta Flight, and you got Alpha Flight. They later on they were called Alpha Flight. James McDowell Hudson, who was Guardian, he came up with the idea of Alpha Flight because after the public emergence of the Fantastic Four, and so it kind of gave hindsight to Department H to pretty much bring a superhero team to Canada in a way. The funniest thing that pretty much probably not too many people know who have not read Alpha Flight or do know, actually, Guardian or James Hudson was not supposed to be the leader of Alpha Flight. Believe it or not, the leader of Alpha Flight was supposed to go to none other than, yeah, you guessed it, Wolverine. He was supposed to be the leader. But unfortunately, he got tapped by Professor Xavier to join the X-Men. So that fat chance, that let it down. And pretty much after a while, for a short while, we kind of saw Alpha Flight as being the bastards that, like I was talking about, because after a while they just kept trying to get Wolverine back, and they would constantly fight the X-Men sometimes, like sometimes set the X-Men up, and even at one point, they attacked the X-Men, I remember, and Guardian, James Hudson, he had injured Moira McTaggart, and he felt really responsible for it. So he had changed his code name from Guardian to Vindicator. And once again, after a while, he still would go after. Like there was another time where they actually, the X-Men were forced to land in Canada. And because of one of the Alpha Flight members' abilities, Shaman, actually his magic made them land, and they once again tried to go after Wolverine again. But later on, that was found out that Alpha Flight was being shut down, so they pretty much couldn't do it. John Burns and Chris Claremont created the team. Now, the original team was made up of Sasquatch, Shaman, Snowbird, and the two siblings, Northstar and Aurora. And that was right before the team was shut down. The team would evolve over time. Later on, they would get people like like Puck. Puck would come along, and uh, Marina would come along, and they would be like key members of Alpha Flight later on. This is where the team really started to get really popular and really good, because they weren't acting like a bunch of jerks all the time. They were defending Canada, not just trying to get Wolverine back to his native Canada in a way. And that was also kind of that was fun to watch the team then, because they got shut down, so they became an independent team to defend Canada by themselves. Um, and that was pretty much it for a while. We stopped seeing Alpha Flight for a while. Like, they would pop up here and there, but their last, I believe, like their last ongoing series, which only lasted 12 issues, was in 2004, and that was kind of wrong. I was like, because I kept up with Alpha Flight. I really did. I was keeping up with them. Um, but later on, they appeared once again, and that was during the New Avengers story arc known as the Collective, right after um, House of M, and Alpha Flight was chasing after the Collective. Um, this, this character known as Michael Pointer, and he had destroyed his hometown of Alaska, and he was traveling from Alaska because he had all the mutant powers that happened after. Remember when all the mutants got depowered? He had pretty much all of the powers at a time, and he traveled from Alaska into Canada, and who was there to greet him but Alpha Flight. Unfortunately, the team confronted him. They were brutally attacked. He brutally attacked them, and he killed almost all of them. So he killed Guardian, Vindicator, Puck, Shaman. Snowbird survived because she's a demigod. Um, but the only one to survive the attack was Sasquatch. And later on, he helped create a new team of Alpha Flight called Omega Flight. And that team was kind of interesting because it really didn't have a lot of Canadian heroes on that team. It was mainly made up of Sasquatch, Michael Pointer, who became the new Guardian, U.S. Agent, Julia Carpenter, when she was still calling herself Arachne, and Beta Ray Bill. He was on that team. But it didn't last too long. And Shaman's daughter, excuse me, yeah, she was also there. But it's really the major story arc that really brought them back is the Chaos Wars. Now, that is a real good story arc to read, guys, because that is where pretty much in that story arc the it played a major factor with the gods. Hercules. This is the story arc where Hercules gave up his immortality, his godlikehood, to save, pretty much to save everybody. But the Sasquatch, but Alpha Flight was involved in it as well because this also brought back all the members of Alpha Flight that died afterwards, after the Chaos Wars ended, and we saw basically the deceased members return from return back from to life, and it was cool. It was really good to see them come back, and I really enjoyed that. But nowadays, by now they came out with another Max series that Greg Pak and Fred Van Lint did. It was like a 12-part Max series once again, and it showcased Alpha Flight coming back together. There was some dissension in the ranks once again, mainly with the Hudson family. Heather Hudson, who was the new Vindicator, she kind of betrayed Alpha Flight because she wanted to just be a normal mom. Her daughter was taken away from her by the government and things like that. Um, but other than that, Alpha Flight is a good team. They It's because of the X-Men they became so popular. They became popular. And speaking of X-Men, they did make uh, a debut in the X-Men episode. If you remember the episode known as Repo Man, episode 16, um, we saw them. They made their team, and they were trying to get Wolverine back on the team in that. Um, but Alpha Flight is still cool, guys. They're very cool. I really enjoyed them. I wish kind of Marvel would push them a little bit more than they do now, but they still are a great team. They're pretty much the only Canadian team, premier Canadian team, I think, in comic history. But I do thank John Byrne and Chris Claremont for creating them very much. But other than that, guys, that's just me talking a little bit about Alpha Flight. You guys tell me, do you like Alpha Flight? Do you hate them, or do you think they were just a waste of time for Chris Claremont and John Byrne? To me, they weren't. And other than that, this is Mama and Kid saying peace, one love, stay tuned, keep real, guys. I will see you guys next time on Characters Why I Like Them. You guys take care.